Hello, everybody. Gbenga Olatunji here. Today, we shall take a look at competitive forces. Competitive forces. And we shall take a look at what market is. What market is. Then we go into product market. The product market. Then we take a look at industries and sectors. What are industries? What are sectors? Then we will know what companies must strategize about, what the people at the governing level of affairs in every organization must strategize about. Then what are the types of industries, like the fragmented, the global industry, some mature industry and the like. We'll take a look at the types of industry. Then we go into convergence. That is convergence market and the like. And we will know, why do industries converge? What factor cause convergence? We are going to examine it, like the demand-led, supply-led convergence. We are going to examine it. Then the five forces model. The five forces model of competitive forces. We'll take a look at it. The threat from the potential entrants, its effects on the profitability and the like, threat from substitute, suppliers bargaining power, customer bargaining power, competitive rivalry even within the industry. We are going to take a look at it. Then we are going to summarize the five forces model, what it entails and what managers of businesses must look at or look out for. And from there we'll call it a day for the part one of competitive markets, for competitive forces. Then we meet for part two, where we'll be looking at the life cycle model, DCG matrix and the like. So if you are ready, I'm ready. Let's go today into our slides. First of all, what is market? What is market? Markets can be defined in so many ways, but we could say a market can be defined by the products and the services that are being sold into it, like fashion and clothing market. It's a market on its own. Banking is a market on its own and the like. We can equally define it in another way, by who we are selling to, the customer and the potential for the products and services. We can say the consumer market, the youth market and the like. That means it is customer focused in definition. We can equally define markets by geographical location, the area, the territory we are selling into, be it global markets, local markets, geographical markets, Nigerian markets, South Korean markets, and the like. It could be global, just as I said, it could be localized markets. And when we are talking about the product market strategy, is basically focused on the targeted market. That is, it is everything we are doing is about how to ensure that we have upper hand in that industry, targeting our market. That is maybe by people definition or by product definition and the like, but it is customer centric. Okay, so industries and sectors. What are industries? What are sectors? Basically, when we say an industry, we mean concentration of many producer of similar things or complementary goods and services that complement and enhance one another in an environment. So that is an industry, and we can say it's a sector too. An industry consists of suppliers who produce similar goods and services, okay, like aero industry, travel industry, and the like. Within an industry, there may be different segments, and we are going to get into that in detail, the, the fragmented and the like. So, what we are saying now is when we focus on our target market, even within that target market, we still need to refocus on who particular target uh, buyer buyers that we really want to serve. So even an industry can still be segmented. Like let's take a look at educational industry. In educational industry now, there are still a lot of segments: the tertiary, the primary, the secondary, and the like. So even within an industry, it could still be segmented, and company must make strategic decision, especially when the organization is being formed. Decision that are strategic in form of which industry do we want to go into? Which industry do we want to go into? It is highly critical because this will determine a lot of things that we are going to do, go into, or what we are not going to do. The industry will dictate a lot about our strategy. The market or the markets in which they will sell. Which market do we want to sell into? The youth market, the elders market, and the like. Companies in different industry might sell their goods or services to the same market. Can you imagine? Just like the educational industry that I cited that example. In that industry, some people are there and they are selling to the tertiary, yes, tertiary education. And those tertiary education and the student too will still buy other things. So even within the same industry, different markets could be formed. Okay, companies in the same industry might not compete because they operate in different markets. Like we are in educational markets, but some people will take their services online, nothing physical about their operations. Some will take their own physically, classroom based, and the like. There's no competition. Everybody is serving different purposes, even in the same market. Some will say, okay, I'm for the tertiary, I'm for the primary, I'm from the secondary, I want to serve the crash and the like. So there's just no competition, even in the same industry. And managers in their analysis of their strategic position, management need to recognize which industry and segments they want to operate in, and I'm emphasizing this, and also which markets they are selling to. Could we, can we see the difference now? The industry and the market. Market is people focused. Educational industry. That's an industry. But the tertiary segment, the primary segment, and the like, the professional segment, just like we are, is a market on its own. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, this is yours truly. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to us. I want to believe you've been enjoying our videos so far. Let's move on to the types of industry. The types of industry. We've defined what an industry is already. So let's go into types of industry. Number one, fragmented. Like when we say something is fragmented, like the geographers at a point in time we were told that the world got fragmented, and when we look at the map of the world we see I got fragmented. We learned, we don't know how true it was, the geographers, that the whole world was a unit before. So that is an example of fragment. Fragmented industry is an industry where firms are small and sell to a small or smaller portion of the total market, just like the educational industry that I've given. So the fragments are the tertiary, the secondary, the professional, and the like. So it's fragmented. That is divided, is segmented. And when somebody or when an organization rather is in fragmented industry, they may compete and there may not be need for competition, especially if they are not serving the same market in that particular industry. Okay, global industry. When we are talking about global industry, we are talking about the concentration of suppliers or producers of the same goods and services, but have expanded their tentacle all over the world. Some industries operate on a global scale, like our laptops, as an example. Name it, the brand. Everybody all over the world buys them, and that makes them a global industry. Like football, for football lovers, it's a global industry. Okay, imagine industry. Imagine industry. This is the third type of industry that we have. And when we are talking about imagine, when we say something emerged, probably out of nowhere, just suddenly appeared. That is appearing, is imagine. Okay, these are industries that have only just started to develop, and there are a lot of new industries coming up. Example, one of the richest man in the world, I think currently is the first wealthiest man in the world, is a pioneer of space travel, in which you can decide to go and see the moon and see the Mars, the Jupiter, the Uranus, the Saturn, and the like. You just travel like that as if you are traveling to another location on Earth. So it's an emerging industry. And there are lots of industries like that are just coming up and having their grant. The fourth industry or industrial type is declining industry. And as we go on, we'll talk about how to approach even declining industry. So when we say declining industry, we meant that they've passed through the growth, the maturity, then they are now declining. So that means the industry is very mature, and the market share has stagnated now at that point. Market growth has stagnated, and there's a way organization must manage if they are in declining industry. The last but not the least is mature industry. The mature industry. So when we're talking about the mature industry, we are talking about industry that have emerged, have, have grown, and now they are stable. The market share can be determined, the growth rate, just like the GDP of a nation, can be predicted, and strategy can be made towards it. So these are the types of industry that we have. So we move on to convergence. Convergence, just from the word converge, it simply means coming together of different units to become one. Let me come again. The coming together of different industries to form the latest industry. See, industries, industry is convergence. Okay? And there may be so many reasons that industries we have to converge. Let me read from a slide a bit. Occasionally, two or more industries or industrial segments will converge and become part of the same industry. Let me give us an example based on our experience currently in Nigeria. The telecom industry, where we buy our data or data as we call it in Nigeria here. That industry now is converging with the financial institutions, and they are already diving into that world because they suddenly discover that, okay, so if we can sell data to people, they can use it to browse, and we can use it to sell some other stuff to them and the like. So they are selling banking now and the like, and so they are already working together, the financial institutions and the telecom, because the two industries are already becoming one, merging together, and that is an example of convergence. As a consequence, these industries have undergone and continue to undergo major strategic changes. So that's a big change. That's a big change, and it's happening so fast all over the world. So what could cause it? Demand-led and supply-led convergence. So when we're talking about demand-led, we're talking about the buyers demanding for, why do I need to buy one here and go there and buy the other? Why can't you sell the two together for me? Why you have the capacity? Can't you see that you have the capacity to sell the two to me, so I don't need to move around before I could get all these things in one place? So that is demand-led. And supply-led, like that of the telecom industry, is when the producer just realize that, I can take more of this into my package and sell it as a unit. So when the supplier or the producer could notice that, okay, they could do more to enhance their product, that is supply led. But when the customers, the buyers, are demanding for the products to be merged together for the obvious advantages, that is supply led convergence. Okay, don't forget to like us. We are moving on. Industries, competition, and the five forces model. The five forces model now. And for the purpose of clarity, 5 forces model by Porter, that is Porter's 5 forces model of competitive forces, is different from Porter's diamond, and their applications are different. Please don't forget. Let me repeat, as the French people will say, répétez. Porter's 5 forces is different from his proposal and the applicability for Porter's diamond. Porter's 5 forces can be used to analyze the strengths of competition within a market, while the diamond, Porter's diamond, is used to check on the global competitiveness, why some industries are doing better in another region than their counterparts in another part of the world. But 5 forces model for competitive forces basically is to analyze the market. Don't forget, we've defined market, we've defined an industry. Okay, so managers of companies must focus on strategic positioning, and strategic positioning cannot be taken without first of all knowing their strategic choices. Choices like which industry are we going to operate in? The industry we are going to operate in, the markets, targeted markets, product markets. Those are the things or elements that are required for strategic positioning to take place. So they must continually monitor the competition and their competitiveness in that particular segment of industry or market. The company should also monitor each of its major competitor. Competitor must be monitored. Don't forget, when I was introducing strategy, I let us know that strategy basically is at the heart, and the center of strategy is focused on competition and how to win the battle of competition. Okay, I read from my notes. It is not a model for analyzing individual competitor, that is Porter's 5 forces, or even what differentiates the performance of different firms in the same market. In other words, it is not used to assess why some firms perform better than the other. Okay? Profitability and competition. Basically, the stiffer the competition, the reduced the profitability will be. Why? Because a lot will go into maintenance and survival. The organizations within the industry will be in survival mode, and a lot will be expended on survival, like advertisement and the like, to survive the game of strategy that other competitor will be putting on. In addition, the 5 model forces model can be used to explain why some industries are more profitable than others, so that companies operating in one industry or market are able to make bigger profits than companies operating in another industry. Profitability is affected by the strength of competition. The stronger the competition, the lower the profits. I want to believe we will agree with that. We should note, Porter argued that 2 factors affect profitability of a company or any company: the industry structure and the competition within the industry, and the organization's competitive advantage. So now that competitive advantage will be internal strength, internal competitiveness that they have that and can use over the other competitors. Okay, moving on. So these are the forces. These are the 5 forces, as we can see. The threats from the potential entrant, the threat from the substitute. At the center of it all is the rivalry happening within the industry. Also, the supplier's bargaining power is a big threat that must be monitored. And also, suppliers and customer bargaining power too is a force on its own. Okay, we want to summarize right away these forces. Before I summarize, I felt the need to expatiate on these 5. Okay, so when we are talking about threat from potential entrants, so we are talking about news producers coming into our territory, new suppliers coming in, organizations that could do similar things that we are doing, services we are rendering or products we are producing. So, and why are they coming in? Their focus is to gain their own market share and, if possible, to dominate the market and take it from us or share it with us. So it's a threat to the profitability of our organization. And people at the helm of governance must always constant scan through entrance to see if organizations are coming in. And as much as possible, this is a very vital tool in strategy to debar, that is, to block as much as possible the route in which new entrants can gain access into our industry, or make it as difficult to enter as possible. So that is strategy. Now we are talking about strategy. Okay, let's talk about the supplier's bargaining power. The supplier's bargaining power and how it affects our profitability and competitiveness. If we can buy in bulk and our supplier can sell to us, let's say to us alone, they rely on us then to sell their own product. But when our suppliers have big or bigger alternatives that they can sell to, and they could equally sell to our competitor, that is a big factor in competitiveness. Therefore, if they have that opportunity, they can always and continuously increase prices at which we buy our input. And when our input is high and we do not have economic of scale, definitely our end products and the output is going to be expensive. And if it's expensive and our competitor could produce cheaper, then it can lead to a situation in which we may be losing our market share, and that could have significant negative impact on profitability and survival of the organization. The third one the competitive rivalry, and this is at the heart of the five forces model. Competitive rivalries, simply put, is talking about the industrial structure. That is, within the industry itself, they are going to have some significant leader, like the market leader. We are going to have some organization, a few organization that are going to be like the follower of the market leader. Then we are going to have those ones that are lagging behind, and we are going to have, last but not the least, the fourth layer, the new entrants. And it's possible that even the new entrant can outrun sometime the market leader. So the structure within the industry is a big factor and must be monitored and proactively responded to. Customers' bargaining power. That is, people we are selling our products to, the market we operate in. So if they have, let's say for example, they have better alternatives, that is from our competitor, or they have opportunity for whatsoever other reason that they can bargain and say, and beat our price down, and we were forced to continue nearly beat our price down. At the end of the day, we may not be having profitability and we should to sustain the organization, and it's going to have negative impact on our competitiveness and the profitability. The last but not the least, threat from the substitute. Threats from the substitutes. Of course, it's obvious what substitutes are. That is complementary products, complementary services within our markets. And if this happen, we need to monitor them. Are they producing the same quality that we are producing? And at what price are they producing it? If they are producing, if the substitute is not substandard and they could offer better price to the market, that is the target market, then our competitiveness is in question. And when this happens, it may make the organization to draw back, having losses, lose the market share, and stagnate in the market growth, and forcefully go into withdrawal. Okay, so I think we can summarize now. Let's summarize. In this summary, basically, these are the things that managers of organization must monitor and look into within the five forces model. Let's take, for example, threats from potential entrants. We must, as much as possible, make it to be very costly to enter. There's some industry like that there must be some stipulated time in which you must have that experience and a proof of experience before you can enter. So that is part of entrance barrier. So they must put as much as possible entrance barrier. Then economic upscale, as much as possible, they must look for economic upscale and ensure as much as possible that only a few in the industry will have maximized economic upscale, especially not for the new entrants. Okay, technological protection too, and that is a big factor now in this 21st century. That's a big factor. So if new entrants should for any reason come up and come into our markets with better technology, we know what will happen. So these are some of the things on the part of potential entrants that the people at the helm of governance must be looking out for, and two, must gear the organization towards achieving. Suppliers bargaining power. We should monitor how many suppliers do we have that is competitor in our industry. We should be able to know them, especially the big players, and their size, the size of the supplier or the competitor. We should know the uniqueness of their services. How unique? What are they doing that we are not doing? We must be able to pinpoint it so that we can use all those things to enhance our products and services too. The ability to buy substitute products too must be examined. The supplier's bargaining power. Do we have opportunity? Can we source our input from other people or other organizations? So organizations managers must continually look for things like this and more. Threats from substitutes. Hmm. The price, at what quality are they selling the substitute? Also, we should monitor trend, especially people that are organization in fashion industry or industry that are always progressive. We should monitor the trend so that we will know how to key into the trend, because when trend happen and we do not follow trend, well, we know the consequence of that. Competitive rivalry, customer loyalty. I want to pinpoint that. In competitive rivalry, customer loyalty, we'll see like the airlines now, what they do, the mileage of travel. The more you have mileage of travel with them, the discount and the like, they calculate it. So when there is stiff competitiveness within an industry, these are some of the things that strategies rather that leaders could use to ensure that they are still in the market to play in the big league. Last but not the least, customer bargaining power. We should be able to monitor as organization leader, or at least estimate who our buyers are and the numbers of our buyers. That is, we should be able to determine our market share, the market capacity is key. Is then we can monitor and assess ourselves. Are we market leader and are we not? Like let's say for example, our product, there are a million people that could buy such a product, and let's say our organization is selling maybe 300,000 units per annum. So if for any reason another competitor is selling, let's say 500, then they become the market leader, and we may be like the immediate follower. So but we will not be able to know our position if we cannot estimate our market generally. So we must know what could be the number of our consumer. With this, I want to thank you. As we move on, we'll be rounding up now and I'll be signing out. We are going to meet next time for part 2. And for part 2, we'll be examining life cycle model, the BCG matrix. Then we move on to the model 4, which is the internal analysis. The internal analysis. Please, if you've not subscribed to GJAMES Associates, we are value to life, value to your business. Please go and subscribe. Please go and subscribe. I see you in part 2.